on the freedom side. What side are you on, my people? What side are you on? We on the freedom side.
Thank you so much for the Freedom Futures Collective.
FFC, we in the building.
Give it up for the Freedom Futures Collective and the Freedom Box. That's amazing. Next up, we have one of our elected officials here in D.C., who's our shadow House representative. We have those in D.C. because we do not have the kind of rights that we need, and that's what we're here to hear about today. So thank you for being a part of this pre-program, and I can see our other shadow rep out there in the audience. Nice to see you. Next up, we have Oye Owalewa to speak to us about D.C. statehood. Give it up for Oye.
What's up, D.C.? Give it up for the past performances. Now, I'm so glad to be here to kick off the National Hands Off movement. Now, people come from around the world to see the monuments, the White House, Congress, but they leave seeing you guys. This is the real D.C. Give it up for yourselves. So as you all know, my name is Dr. Oloy, and I'm the U.S. representative of Washington, D.C., where we fight for statehood and voting rights. Well, I want to give a shout out to you guys, the millions who come to enjoy D.C., the millions who come to work in D.C., the 700,000 who call D.C. home. Those among us that often live as second-class citizens until D.C. becomes a state. We pay taxes without representation. But statehood is not just representation. It's our way of life. Last year, in the previous administration, we had a criminal code revision that were restored the way we want to live, that was struck down by the president and Congress. So the fight for D.C. statehood is not a Democrat thing. It's not a Republican thing. It's an American thing. But today, we are living in a much more stark reality. We got federal workers being laid off. We have council members and a mayor who are bullied into silence. We have a budget that's being underfunded. We cannot spend our own money. So we need people like you in D.C. and outside of D.C. to stand up for us. Now, we know what the president was going to do. He created Project 2025. But in my opinion, the power belongs to the people. So we need to create a Project 2026 plan. One that supports organized labor and pushes Congress to pass the PRO Act. One that fights for the LGBTQ plus community and pushes Congress to pass the Equality Act. One that restores life to D.C. residents and pass the D.C. Statehood Emissions Act. One that allows everybody in this audience to come to Capitol Hill on Monday and push Congress to restore our budget. That the government didn't say it's a right for a woman to choose her right for reproductive rights. It was us that pushed the government to do so. It's not going to be federal workers that's going to be at the whims of Elon Musk. We're going to employ federal workers. That's who we are. That's what D.C. is. If my job has to be dismantled, if I'm no longer elected, it's okay because you guys have my back. If I'm not D.C.'s representative tomorrow, it's okay because one of you guys in this audience will be. Antoine, you may be. So please don't just join me today. Join us on Monday to fight for our budget. Join us the day after to fight for D.C. statehood. To join us the day after that to create the America of tomorrow. So I'm honored to kick off our hands-off national protest here in the District of Columbia, because the District of Columbia is not the White House. It's not Congress. It is you guys. The 700,000 Americans that call D.C. home. The millions that come to work and play here. So God bless you all. God bless America. And God bless the soon-to-be 51st state, Washington, D.C. Thank you all.
You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find that fighter, but I see it in you, so we gonna walk it out and move mountains. We gonna walk it out and mountains, and we'll rise up, we'll rise like the day, we'll rise up, we'll rise unafraid, we'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again. When the silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet and move mountains, take it to its feet and
All right, we have reached the end of our DC specific program this morning. What did you all think about our amazing performers in DC? What do you all think about the talent we have in DC? I want to just close us out by just reminding us what is happening all around us in these buildings around us. That we have people from Doge who are breaking into buildings. We have illegally broken contracts that we have with workers. We have an attempt to go after our entire economy. We know the reality in DC. The reality is that violent crime is at a 30-year low in this community. That's amazing, but they are using this opportunity to have an unqualified U.S. attorney come here and threaten mass incarceration. They're threatening federal police presence. They're threatening to increase their arresting power. They're hurling insults at our children and at our DC public schools, saying that our schools are inmate factories. These are lies. And I think that it's so important for us to have this hour of pre-programming about DC so that we can tell everyone here who's visiting us for this day that these are lies. Race and crime are inextricably linked to DC's struggle for autonomy and have always been used by racist federal leaders as an excuse for preventing DC from governing ourselves. So we had this pre-program today so we could have you join us in saying no more. So I'm going to say hands off, and I want you to say DC. Hands off? DC. Hands off? DC. Hands off? DC. Now I'm going to say free, and I want you to say DC. Free? Free? Now I'm going to say DC. I want you to say statehood. DC? 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 All right, thank you so much for coming out to the pre-program. We're going to start the program in just a few minutes.
respect from anyone.
Welcome to Hands Off, the People's Veto Rally in Washington, D.C. Please welcome Denise Bright Dove Ashton Dunkley.
Hey. Greetings, everyone. Nudelintam Elipan, Delawense Denise, Sapalee Mametake Mu. I am glad you all came. My name is Denise Bright Dove Dunkley. I am Nanticoke from the Nanticoke Lenape Nation, Turtle Clan. When I describe and envision my ancestral homelands without colonial borders, I say that I am from the southernmost tidewaters of Lenapehoking, the land of Lenape. And that land spreads throughout most of Delaware, parts of Pennsylvania and Maryland, and all of New Jersey, and into New York. We are gathered today within the ancestral homelands of my relatives, the Piscataway people. I am humbled to speak here, and I acknowledge the responsibility of kinship. I want to thank the Piscataway Nation for their unwavering stewardship of this territory, and I ask you all to do the same. Indigenous people have occupied, governed, traded, thrived, and endured within our original territory since time immemorial. It is our inherent sovereign right to continue to do so. But acknowledging our existence is only one step. Good allies also amplify and elevate the voices of those they are helping. We are in a time of uncertainty. Indigenous, Black, and brown are in dire need of assistance. In fact, solidarity is critical for our collective futures. We all know too well what happens to the land happens to the people. As we struggle to fight for life and beauty in this world and for the earth itself, each of us must decide where our moral compass leads us. Will you remember the Piscataway Nation when you leave here today? Will you honor the earth? Will you think about the people whose lands you stand on? Will you stand up for your neighbor? Will you be a good relative and think about the responsibilities of kinship? Will you remember our more than human relatives, those who suffer from the greed of humanity, our four-legged, our winged ones, the creepy crawlies, our soil, our waterways, and our air? What about the rights of nature? A special prayer to all of my relatives who are suffering. My thoughts and prayers are with Palestine. And whatever else you can shout out, I want to hear it. Who needs our help? Kishlemiin, Wicheminin, and Kanakahinin. Wanishi, Creator, help and watch over us. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Yara Allen, and I'm out here because I want you to lift your voices as high as you can lift them. And we're going to bring back an old song to invite the ancestors who did this before us. Are we ready? I need you to clap along if you can. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up the freedom way. Ain't gonna let nobody. No, 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 no. Ain't gonna let nobody. I'm gonna. That's it. Yeah, ain't gonna let this president. No, ain't gonna let this president. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up the freedom way. Ain't gonna let racist politics. No. Ain't gonna let racist politics. I'm gonna. That's it. One more time. Yeah, ain't gonna let nobody. No. Ain't gonna let nobody. I'm gonna keep on. Can we keep doing that? Keep on talking. I'm gonna keep on walking. Keep on talking. Keep on walking. Keep on talking. Marching up to freedom lane. Come on and give it up for Reverend Dr. William J. Barber II.
Forward together, not one step back. 57 years ago, on April the 3rd, Reverend Dr. King said the night before he died, nothing would be more tragic than for us to turn back now. God help us not to turn back from the vision of our Constitution, that is to establish justice, to promote the general welfare, to provide for the common defense, and to ensure domestic tranquility. When Trump and Musk and Johnson and their minions are signing unconstitutional executive orders, unconstitutionally firing people, trying to pass an unjust budget, and wrongfully raising tariffs that will not only hurt Wall Street, but back street and side streets and side roads. When they are doing this, we must say every day, we will stand up in truth and raise our voices and votes and declare, take your hands off of our democracy. Their foolish budget plans could remove 36 million people from health care and millions of poor and low-wage children from school lunch and refuse to raise the living wage for 14 million low-wage working American people from $7.25 to $17 an hour. We must pray for God to give us the courage to stand and say, take your hands off Medicaid. Take your hands off our health. Take your hands off our voting rights. Take your hand off our living wages. Take your hand off our public education. Take your hands off of our lives. When greedy technocrats with a supremacy philosophy want to rule the country, we with moral vigor and righteous indignation must stand up and say no. We cannot be at ease in America. History is pushing us, the present is demanding us, and the future is calling us. I said in 2018 that every age must have a movement of people that will build a moral fusion mass movement that stands together. That stands together because issues before us are not about left versus right or Republican versus Democrat, but about right versus wrong and justice versus injustice. And with the help of the divine, we must unite more and more, declaring that we are black, we are white, we are Latino, we are Asian, we are Native, we are young, we are old, we are North, we are South, we are East, we are West, we are gay, we are straight, we are trans, we are America, and we ain't going nowhere. God give us the strength. We will not allow a budget that goes after the policies that lift the poor and low-wage workers of this nation. We will not accept the attacks on federal workers. We will not accept them, not now, not ever. And we will prayerfully, with no equivocation, no capitulation, no weakness, declare with all that is holy and divine, we must not bow. We must reclaim our government. We must pledge ourselves to the work of the third Reconstruction of America. We must lift every voice and sing together. We must lead with love and repent of the apathy that has too often slipped in. We cannot bow. Finally, they are afraid of you. Trump and Musk, who want to be dictators and want to be kings and lords, they are afraid of the power of love and truth and justice. They are afraid of your unity and your diversity. Well, let's keep them afraid until they change. My friends, this is way bigger than just a party issue. This is an outright battle for civilization. And the they all have your power to come together. And they are betting that we will be afraid of them. But this is the time that we must increase, intensify, and embolden our agitation for what is right. We must declare that the only way a wannabe king can be king is if we bow, but bowing down is not an option. Our needs aren't made for bowing. We are not going to bow to power-drunk, neo-fascist extremists. We only bow to God. And so we must stand tall. When they attack everyday people with mean, hurtful policies, we must stand tall as they take your hands off of our lives. So stand up to the technocrats. To stand tall. To stand tall. It's for the people to stand tall. We must mobilize our righteous bodies and our voices and our hearts by the millions. We must stand tall because bowing down is not an option. It might take mass call-ins, but stand tall. It might take mass sit-ins, but stand tall. It might take nonviolent civil disobedience, and they might arrest us, but stand tall. It might take mass pray-ins, but stand tall. It might take class action lawsuits, but stand tall. It might take having a labor strike day on election day so that working people can vote. But stand tall. Stand tall in every precinct. Stand tall in every voting district. Stand tall in every city. Stand tall in every state. Stand tall in truth. Stand tall in love. Stand tall in justice. Stand tall and demand that they take their hands off our democracy, and the God of the universe will be with us. Stand tall. Bowing down. Say it with me. Bowing down. Bowing down. Bowing down is not an option. Stand. Stand.
Washington, D.C., please welcome Congressman Jamie Raskin.
Hello, indivisible. Hello, America. Anybody here from Maryland, the Free State? The birthplace of Frederick Douglass. The proud home of people who work at USAID and FDA and NOAA, the National Weather Service, and the National Institutes for Health, the NIH. The crown jewel of bioscience, where despite all the purges and all the firings, they're working every day to cure cystic fibrosis, multiple sclerosis, breast cancer, and that most deadly disease of our time, malignant narcissistic personality disorder. Let the scientists do their jobs. They might even find a cure for that baffling worm and brain disease. The great thing about science is it's true whether or not the Secretary of Health and Human Services believes in it. Let's all say with Maryland, hands off science. Anybody here from Virginia? The birthplace of James Madison, who wrote us the First Amendment. It separated church and state for the first time in human history. It gave us the right to speak freely, to publish freely, to worship freely, to assemble freely, and to petition government for a redress of grievances. As Dr. King said, we've got the right to protest for what is right without being arrested, deported, or fired. We got the right to read the books we want, including 1984 and The Handmaid's Tale, even if they now belong in the nonfiction section. We've even got the right to call the president deranged for crashing our economy, destroying $6 trillion of wealth, and turning my 401k into a 201k. And the press has the right to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of Mexico. Madison's Constitution gave us the two most beautiful words in the English language: due process. Let's stand with Madison and Virginia and the people and Thomas Jefferson and all the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and let's say, hands off the Bill of Rights. Hello to the 713,000 tax-paying, patriotic citizens of Washington, D.C. Your officers, like Michael Fanone, joined the Capitol Police on January 6, 2021, to defend Congress against the worst insurrectionary and mob violence of American history brought down on the Capitol, which wounded, hospitalized, and injured more than 140 of our police officers. These were mobsters who turned the flag of America into a weapon of war against our police. And now Donald Trump says he wants to set up a fund to compensate them. Mr. Trump, if there's going to be a fund to compensate people for January 6th, we're going to compensate the police officers and their families. We're going to back the men and women of the blue, not the planners of the coup. Meantime, the people of D.C. have a valid, bona fide political grievance, not an imaginary one. They've not stormed the Capitol or tried to overturn an election or hang the vice president. They petitioned for statehood like 37 states before them. They did it the right way. So we say to Donald Trump and Elon Musk, hands off Greenland. That's an independent country. Hands off Canada. That's an independent country. Hands off Panama. That's an independent country. Statehood for Washington, D.C. And let's say with the people of Washington, free D.C. I want to say a special hello to people across America, but especially the people of Wisconsin. They showed America that organized people who want nothing but freedom can defeat organized billionaires who want nothing but power. Here in America, Mr. Musk, justice is not for sale, and we don't raffle off state Supreme Court judgeships for million-dollar prizes. Stop trying to buy our votes. Stop ripping off our government, and stop stealing our data. My friends, we're in the fight of our lives, but I want to tell you this. We are winning now. We are winning every day. We are winning in court, where 39 judges appointed by 5 Republican and Democratic presidents have issued 56 preliminary injunctions and TROs against this lawlessness. Now want to impeach judges like Judge Boasberg, the chief judge of the D.C. District. Yesterday, he ordered the return of Kilmer Garcia, a legal resident of the United States, married to a U.S. citizen. They sent him to a dictator's prison in El Salvador. The administration was forced to admit that his deportation was without due process and was, quote, an administrative error. But get this, then Trump said, well, c'est la vie. Mr. Garcia would have to stay in that torture facility because the U.S. no longer had custody over him. But Judge Boasberg told him that if you've got the means to unlawfully deport someone, you find the means to bring them back. So now they're calling Judge Boasberg a radical left rogue judge. The problem is he was appointed to the bench first by President Bush. He was Justice Kavanaugh's roommate at Yale. He's known as a pillar of the legal establishment. They say, though, well, the number of courts striking down Trump's policies is completely unprecedented. Well, so what? That's only because the number of his illegal actions are completely unprecedented. The judges are doing their jobs. They're doing their jobs. Let's tell MAGA what democratic movements all over the world tell the dictators of the world. Hands off the courts. Hands off the courts. But you know, Trump's even trying to ban law firms and lawyers who represent Democrats from federal buildings and federal employment and to revoke their security clearances. Wait, he's shaken down law firms for hundreds of millions of dollars in pro bono work for his pro-Malum causes. Some firms have buckled under these threats, but hundreds of firms led by Wilmer Hale and Jenner and Block and thousands of lawyers led by Rachel Cohen are standing strong for the rule of law. And the courts are rejecting these attacks on the right to counsel and free speech. We're winning in the states. We're winning in the counties. We're winning in the cities and towns. We're winning in the churches, and not just with the great Reverend Barber. We're winning across the country. No moral person wants an economy-crashing dictator who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. We're winning in the universities, which know the difference between transgender mice and transgenic mice. and they know the difference between academic freedom and political tyranny. We're winning with veterans across America who know which side we were fighting on in World War II. And when they see Nazis marching down the boulevard, they don't see very fine people on both sides of the street. We're winning with people in the armed services who know that Donald Trump is turning our best friends in the world, like Germany and the UK and France and Canada and Mexico, into enemies by the way he's treating them. And he's turning the enemies of American democracy, like Vladimir Putin and Viktor Orban and Xi and Erdogan, into their bosom buddies. We're starting to win with the business community, which knows there's no prosperity with stupid trade wars against the whole world. There's no prosperity with stock market collapse and mass unemployment. There's no future with presidents who have the politics of Mussolini and the economics of Herbert Hoover. But now look, Elon Musk and the Silicon Valley billionaire mafia believe that high IQ tech supermen obsessed with eugenics and impregnating as many women as possible are destined to govern the rest of us. In other words, they're going to rule in their vision. They believe democracy is doomed, and they believe regime change is upon us if they can only seize control of our payment systems, our data, and our computers. Their guru, Curtis Yarvin, a.k.a. Mencius Moldbug, says American democracy is a failed experiment. He praises slavery and its positive effects for the African American community. He told the New York Times that the American people have to get over our irrational fear of dictatorship. On January 20th, the day when Donald Trump did not put his hand on the Bible, even his own Bible, available online to true believers for the low, low price of $59.99. On that day, when he swore to support our Constitution, we saw what a dictatorship of autocrats and plutocrats and kleptocrats and theocrats looks like. It's a twice impeached, multiply bankrupted, very stable genius standing in front of oligarchs, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos, standing in front a cabinet of billionaires and Putin followers who make war plans over the public signal app, even while they're literally sitting in the Kremlin. But I want to tell you something. Moldberg and Vance and Musk, they may have access to artificial intelligence, but they've got no access to human intelligence. These founders of the Dark Enlightenment, as they call themselves, are no match for the founders of the actual Enlightenment, like Madison and Jefferson and Ben Franklin and Tom Paine, much less the leaders who took down slavery and built Reconstruction, like Abraham Lincoln and Harriet Tubman and Thaddeus Stevens and Frederick Douglass. If they think they're going to overthrow the heroes of American democracy, they don't know who they're dealing with. Our founders wrote a constitution that does not begin with "we the dictators." The preamble says, "We the people." We the who? Did you say the corporations? We the people, in order to form a more perfect, did you say a more perfect government? We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure to ourselves and our posterity the blessings of liberty, do hereby ordain and establish the Constitution of these United States of America. That's our preamble. And then the very next sentence is, all legislative power is vested in the Congress of the United States of America. And it lays out all the powers of Congress, the power to regulate commerce domestically and internationally, which means it's Congress that controls tariffs, not the president, not Elon Musk. Their tariffs are not only imbecilic, they're illegal, they're unconstitutional, and we're going to turn this around. Congress has the power of the purse to raise money and spend money. An Appropriations Act is a federal law, like a law banning assault on federal officers. It's not a budgetary negotiation. It's not a suggestion to the executive branch. If we say spend money on childhood education or cancer research, you spend that money. Congress is the lawmaking branch, the predominant branch, as Madison put it. And don't buy any of this fifth grade propaganda about three co-equal branches. First of all, co-equal's not even a word, okay? It's like extremely unique. But secondly, read Article 2 of the Constitution about the president. After all those pages about Congress, 4 short paragraphs. The most important one, Section 4, which is all about how you impeach a president for treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. If we're co-equal, how come we can impeach him and he can't impeach us? What's the core function of the president, my friends? And teach your children to take care that the laws are faithfully executed. Not twisted, not distorted, not maligned, not trashed. Take care that the laws are faithfully executed. All we say to Donald Trump is, do your job. And when he doesn't, that's what Article 3 is all about. All about. Marbury versus Madison says it's emphatically the province and the duty of the Judicial Department to say what the law is. That's what judicial review is. But that's a short-term solution, my friends. The real backstop to this authoritarianism is, it has always been, and it always will be, the people. Even with all their gerrymandering and all their voter suppression, even with all their billions in dark money, the people must, the people will organize to defeat them and take back the Congress next year. We'll be heard in the town halls, in the union halls, in the church halls, in the state capitals and in the capital city, online and inline, at the post office, which we're going to save, at social events, and at the Social Security offices that they're trying to close down. And if anybody was slow to wake up to this authoritarian takeover, nobody's sleeping now, and nothing is going to stop the forces of democracy and freedom in America. No oligarch, no proligarch, no autocrat, no theocrat, no kleptocrat, no monarch from Moscow or Mar-a-Lago is going to turn us around. Fascism will not be the end of human history. Human history will be the end of fascism. The deranged cult of MAGA will not destroy the economy built by free labor, free ideas, and free markets. The economy, The Economist magazine called 6 months ago the envy of the world. The envy of the world. My friends, we are not only the liberals who believe in liberty. We are not only the progressives who believe in progress. We are the conservatives who will defend the land, the air, the water, the climate system, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the National Labor Relations Act, the Fair Labor Standards Act, the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, everything that their party of nihilists and authoritarians wants to tear down in the next few weeks, we are going to conserve and defend for future generations of Americans. We invite all Americans to join us, to join the party of democracy and freedom and solidarity. An injury to one is an injury to all. A victory for any one of us is a victory for all. And I leave you with the words of two great democracy patriots. Hold them close to your heart. One, the great Frederick Douglass, born a half an hour away at the Wye River Plantation into slavery. He escaped from slavery to become our great freedom fighter during the Civil War and Reconstruction. And Douglass said, if there's no struggle, there's no progress. And the struggle may be physical, it may be moral and physical, but there must be struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has, and it never will. A message to you from Frederick Douglass and the people of Maryland. And my friends, I leave you finally with the words of the great Tom Paine, who my son Tommy was named after. And Tom Paine got here in 1774, 2 years before the Revolution. He fell in love with the promise of our land. He said, if these people live up to their promise and their ideals, the land will become an asylum to humanity, he said. Not an insane asylum, mind you. A place of refuge for people seeking freedom from political and religious discrimination from all over the world. And he wrote the pamphlet that ignited our revolution, Common Sense, by which he meant the sense we all have in common when we're willing to reason together without myth and dogma and what we would call propaganda and disinformation. But you know, 1776 was a tough year, and the country was split. There were some people running around saying, you can't beat the kings and the queens. You can't beat the autocrats and the monarchs. You can't separate church and state. For all of history, people have lived under thugs and dictators and kleptocrats like Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. But half of the people said, no, let's try something different. Let's pledge to ourselves our sacred honor, our fortunes, our lives, to build something different. And so Paine wanted to write a pamphlet to give people hope during the darkest hours. And he wrote this beautiful pamphlet called The American Crisis. I just want to quote a little passage to you. I'm going to update the language so it doesn't offend modern sensibilities. And Nancy Pelosi told me I had to do that. And she said it wouldn't offend Tom Paine because he was a feminist, and that he was. He was fighting for women's voting rights in the 18th century. But Paine said, these are the times that try men and women's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will shrink at this moment from the service of their cause and their country. But everyone that stands with us now will win the love and the favor and affection of every man and every woman for all time. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered, but we have this saving consolation. The more difficult the struggle, the more glorious in the end will be our victory. Let's make that victory ours. Thank you, Indivisible. Thank you, America.
Please welcome Congressman Maxwell Frost.
Hello, how's everybody doing? This is about the fight for everything and everyone. When I say everything, say everyone. Everything. 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 It is so damn good to see this crowd. Yo, we all know that we're living in some dark times. We see the foundations of our society, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the very safety nets that people have fought for generations to ensure that our country... This insidious rise of authoritarianism is fueled by corrupt billionaires and mega corporations who believe that they have the right to control every aspect of our lives. Our health care, to our schools, to our thoughts, to our very speech. Under the false banner of patriotism and freedom and a false banner of patriotism. They would have us believe that if we gave them all the control, everything would be great. But breaking news, they've had the control, and look at where we're at right now. Massive wealth inequality in this country, where most of our people live paycheck to paycheck. And it isn't a new problem for generations. The billionaires and oligarchs have kept all this wealth and left us with the crumbs. But we say no more. In this moment, we all have a choice to make. As elected officials, we can't live in the world of what we can't do, but we have to live in the world of what we can and must do. I'll tell you, I had some friends come up to me and say, Maxwell, you should think about running for Congress. 4 years ago, I said, hell no, you're crazy. The crazy thing is, I didn't have all the power at the time. I didn't have all the money. I experienced homelessness during my campaign, and as many of you know, even after I was elected, I couldn't find a place to live in D.C. because the housing costs were too high. But the crazier thing is, we won. We didn't have all the power. When we woke up and saw, it was Twitter at this time, when we woke up and saw on Twitter that a black man, George Floyd, had been lynched in broad daylight. We didn't have all the power, but we still took to the streets to say that Black Lives Matter. They didn't have all the power. When a gunman walked into Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in Parkland, Florida, and murdered 17 students, children, and teachers. But the students rose up, demanded that we end gun violence, and the world didn't just watch, the world marched to end gun violence. Use all the power that you got, and that's what we have to do in this moment. We need to use everything in our toolbox. We can't afford to brush aside any part of our movement. We need mutual aid. We need protest. We need direct action. We need a legislative strategy. We need to be in the courts litigating, because I promise you, our opposition are not leaving any tools in their toolbox. They're using everything they have. And it's insane because there is such international solidarity in the right-wing fascist movement. January 6th here, January 8th in Brazil, funded by a lot of the same people and organized by a lot of the same people. But here's the thing, their movement is run by fear, trying to push us against one another. They would have our people believe that the reasons we can't afford rent, the reason we can't afford health care, the reason we can't afford groceries is because of other people in our own communities. Yes, we know that this system is rigged and the status quo doesn't work for Americans, but it's not rigged against the billionaires, it's rigged for the billionaires and for the corporations. They are the ones hoarding so much wealth, we can't even imagine what it is. They're the ones cutting essential programs that help working families while giving themselves massive tax breaks that benefits nobody but themselves. They tell us that immigrants are stealing our jobs, but they're the ones shipping jobs overseas and hiring corporate lawyers to go and union bust. They're the ones that are screwing us over on the jobs. They tell us national public health emergency of gun violence. And they want us to believe that they're the patriots of free speech. But they're the ones kidnapping and disappearing. The message is simple, and I've been traveling the country. I went to Michigan with my good friend Senator Chris Murphy to a Republican district. And the message is simple. We're in this situation not because of our neighbors. I promise you, your bank account looks a lot more like your trans neighbors or your immigrant neighbors and nothing like Elon Musk's. In fact, we're all closer to being on the streets than having a bank account that looks like his. How do you think he got to where he's at? I have people who come up to him and say, Maxwell, why would they be stealing? Elon Musk is already the richest person in the world. He has enough money. The question is, how do you think he became the richest person in the world? And, you know, Elon doesn't like me. If you told me 5 years ago that the richest man on earth would be tweeting about me, I mean, it goes to show Elon's a great example that money can't buy you happiness, and money can't buy you a Wisconsin Supreme Court seat either. But I'll tell you, our way out of this is not to back down, is not to be silent, is not to be divided. Throughout human history, authoritarians, they're never satisfied with the power that they have. And so they test the bounds, they push the limits, they break the law, and then they look at the public to see if they're quiet or if they're loud. If we are quiet, if elected officials are quiet, then we are complicit. And we cannot be complicit in the tearing apart of Medicaid, of Social Security, of food stamps, of nutritional assistance, of the things that we fought for and earned. This is why Democrats in the House and across the country, we can't be and we are not the minority party. We must be the opposition in this moment. And then in less than 2 years, we will become the majority. And I'll tell you this, Elon Musk was on the news the other day saying, well, if the Democrats win, it's just going to be subpoenas and investigations. It's the one thing he's right about. You're damn right there's going to be subpoenas. You're damn right there's going to be investigations. Because when you steal from the people, expect the people to rise up at the ballot box and on the streets. Look, I'll end with this. I'm not going to be the one to sit here and say everything is going to be okay. Because to be honest, there's going to be a lot of people, and there's already a lot of people who are not okay, who are suffering from this authoritarian right-wing regime that is trying to have a billionaire takeover of our government. But the good thing is we are not alone. Not just in this moment and in this crowd, but I mean we're not alone in the grand mosaic of humanity and timeline of justice. We stand alongside the water protectors, the freedom fighters, the anti-war warriors, and said we are all together. We are not divided and we are not apart. And it's not going to be easy. And I know this coming from a movement. You know, I got involved in politics when I was 15 years old because I didn't want to get shot in school. I was a part of movement for 10 years and still part of the gun violence prevention movement. That the time when the most people give a damn about our issue is coupled when there's the most death and chaos. A movement when the country is paying attention to us. This is what's going on right now. I always tell people, the testament of an organizer is what you do when nobody's paying attention. But the testament of a movement is what you do when the world is watching. And the world is watching. There will be times where we feel disappointed. But when those feelings overcome you, think about this moment. Think about our people. Think about our stories. And think about the people who came before us. And in my mind, I always think about the amazing Angela Davis when she said, I am no longer... Can you accept cuts to Social Security? Can you accept cuts to Medicare and Medicaid? Can we accept the rise of right-wing authoritarians in this country? Can we accept them banning the books in our libraries? Can we accept them trying to ethically cleanse our people from a land? Can we accept kids being mowed down in their schools? Well, it sounds like we have a lot of damn work to do. God bless you all. Let's continue to fight, and we will win. Thank you.
Director Rana Epting.
Hello, D.C. I'm Rana, and I'm with Move On. Who's a Move On member? Raise your hand. That's right, because at Move On, we believe in the power of the people. We believe in the power of collective action, and that's what today is all about. Look, we know Trump and Musk and the Republicans have been launching an all-out flood-the-zone strategy to overwhelm us with attacks on Social Security, Medicaid, on other critical services and benefits that we've earned, on attacks on our rights and our freedoms. They want us to feel helpless. They want us to be hopeless. They want us to feel alone in our concerns. Are we alone? Because when we come together, we are powerful, and thank you for being here today. Look, Trump and Musk, they're doing everything to consolidate their power. You know that. They're firing tens of thousands of federal employees. They're threatening to get rid of more. They're trying to eliminate the Department of Education, leaving students, parents, and teachers on the cold in favor of making their billionaire backers richer and richer. And now they're attempting to silence our neighbors in the workforce all across the country by taking away their voice on the job. Are we going to stand for that? But as we know, the working people united will never be divided, will never be defeated. And you're about to hear from some incredible leaders of unions here today. We'll be joined alongside with working people who've been directly affected at the hands of Trump and Musk. They're not just fighting for their members, they are fighting for all of us, folks. So please give a big, hearty welcome to the stage, AFL-CIO President Liz Shuler, NEA President Becky Pringle, National Nurses United President Kathy Kennedy, NFFE President Randy Irwin, and AFGE President Everett Kelly, along with their members.
President of the AFL-CIO, America's unions. And I'm so honored to be here with all of you and with all of our labor activists and leaders here to bring the voice of not just our 63 unions and nearly 15 million workers, but of every working person in this country. So listen, this administration wants us. Well, I'm up here today next to workers who are the human face of what is going on. The people who make our lives better, who serve our communities, and whose lives have been turned veteran, someone who served this country and then went to work for the federal government, the Office of Personnel Management, a proud AFGE union member. Does that make sense to anyone here? Listen, ever since this election, I keep hearing about how divided working people are. But the people I talk to every day, teachers, nurses, workers, people with every matters to us. And I see it. I see it. I have not met one person. I've not met one person who says, yes, it makes sense for a CEO to make 200, who says, yes, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos need more tax breaks. And that money should come from my mom's Medicare or Social Security. the jobs that keep my food safe, that make my water clean. Get rid of the workers who care for our veterans, our heroes, when they come back from serving our country. It makes no sense. So to every working person here, are you sick and tired of a government that is not of, by, and for the people, but of, by, and for the billionaires? Are you ready to do something about it? Because our votes are not for sale. Our values are not for sale. And our rights and our freedoms are not for sale. So are you ready to fight? You ready to win? Words about her experience, and then I'll introduce.
Just want to thank you all and let you know that I'm happy that you're in the fight with us. I may not get my job back, but I'm going to fight for the employees that are still there because they deserve it as well. And I'm going to make sure that everyone knows what's going on. Because when we fight,
it's my joy to introduce an absolute fighter for our nation's kids, someone who protects not only our educators, our students, but all working people in this country, the president of the National Education Association, Becky Pringle.
The view from up here is magnificent. Of all, the right to learn is the most fundamental. The freedom to learn has been bought by bitter sacrifice. So whatever you might think about the curtailment, right to learn, those words spoken by W.E.B. Du Bois over a century ago are still true today. The wonders of science for 31 years. And I am honored to be the president of this nation's largest labor union, the National Education Association. To support staff. And we are joined by the 3 million people who have dedicated their lives to teaching and nurturing, counseling and feeding, driving and taking care of this nation's 50 million of our public schools. The NEA has called out Donald Trump and Elon Musk and WWE czar. You can't make this stuff up. Their brazen attempts to undermine public education in America. Their devastating, dangerous, and disrespectful mass firing of half of our public servants in the Department of Education. All urban and all suburban schools across this country. We know that class sizes will soar and arts and music and after-school programs will be diminished. Job training programs will disappear. Higher education will be further out of reach for most Americans. Adrift without desperately needed special education services. And the civil rights of our students will be eroded. Yeah, what is? That's what. Hands off, Elon Musk. Hands off, Linda McMahon. I just left Kentucky where we were celebrating. I said loudly and clearly, we love our public schools and give them to private schools. And who will be left to dent in those gaps for our babies? Educators all over this country who bear that burden every day. And those federal workers in the Department of Education who told us, I put my life on the line, I was willing to die for this country, all to be thrown out like trash by this administration. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are trying to roll back 6 decades of civil rights progress. They're peddling their pride and take away money from the 90% of the students who learn in our public schools. And we know it's a scheme. We've already seen when states go to vouchers, academics decline, state budgets are slashed, and public education, our schools lose vital funding. Now you might say, Becky, why are they doing this? Union's plan to strip away the freedom to teach and the freedom to learn. Because oligarchs know that to maintain a democracy, you have to have an educated society. Now, the Trump-Musk administration can't have that. They don't want people who are critical thinkers asking hard questions, people reading. They don't want that. Right. Discerning the truth. They want us divided and swimming in chaos and confusion, so we won't of every public school having the resources to create a safe and welcoming and inclusive and joyful learning environment where every student, everyone can live into their brilliance. I am deliberate and afraid of nothing. And unafraid, we will demand that every student has what they need and what they deserve. Deliberate and unafraid, we will fight for every educator to be respected and compensated for what they do for this country. Deliberate and unafraid, we will continue the fight for education and the poetry of our Constitution. We the people, say it with me, we the people, we the people, we the people, all of us deserve that right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice. So we will continue to demand that you keep because our children, our babies are depending on us. They're depending on us to be worthy of them. And now, from the National Nurses United, give it up for Kathy Kennedy.
Kathy Kennedy, and I'm a registered nurse and president of National Nurses United. And yeah, you know, union nurses have long fought for Medicare for all because we know is a we live in and the support systems we all rely on. Those include Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the Veterans Affairs Administration. Yes, this current administration wants to weaken and privatize those programs that have helped millions of people stay alive, housed, and cared for. And without these programs, vulnerable seniors, low-income families, people with disabilities, and veterans will suffer. Yes. And while they're attacking the social yes, they're trying to break our solidarity so that we can't hold them accountable. But guess what? We're not going to let that happen. The current administration wants a society where wealthful and powerful get richer while the rest of us struggle. They say bailouts to giant corporations. What do you say? No way. No way. So let's be very clear. Our nation's public programs were created for a reason. During times of struggle like the Great Depression, the World Wars in Vietnam, when seniors were dying in poverty, veterans were left without care, and millions of Americans lacked the basic services to live. Do we want that? No. Absolutely not. This administration knows, they know very well that these are very popular programs for voters, so they can't get rid of them overnight. So what do they? How do they justify doing this? First, they have to break the system, right? Slash funding, fire staff, change policy until the program no longer functions properly. And then private corporations swoop in, offering to fix it for a profit. Are we going to let that happen? No. Are we here to tell them hands off? We must stand up for a society that values people over profit, right? Our seniors, our communities, our patients, our veterans, we all depend on this. So hands off our public services. Hands off our union rights. Hands off. On the federal employees, President Randy Irwin.
President of the National Federation of Federal Employees. We represent 110,000 federal workers nationwide. Our members are doing incredible work, caring for our veterans, keeping our military ready, caring for our public land.